December 30th, 2025. In modern warfare, the safest place to hide, in shelters, fortified lands, behind concrete walls, that place is rapidly ceasing to exist.
It really is.
The revolutionary technology we're diving into today is actively eliminating the enemy's belief in any secure position. This shows exactly how that shift is unfolding. And a quick reminder, if you support this kind of in-depth analysis, please subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely military and defense reports. I'm Alex.
And I'm Maria.
And in this deep dive by Defense Report, we're giving you a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense. And today we are covering a clash of two opposing military doctrines, all fought under the banner of a single name.
We are focusing, and I mean really focusing, on the battlefield revolution being driven by these specialized Ukrainian drone units. Specifically, a unit known as the BBPS Orion of the 40th Coastal Defense Brigade.
And our mission for you today is pretty critical.
It is. We're going to chart this unit's radical transformation. We'll dissect its use of cutting-edge AI to fundamentally negate Russian concealment.
And this is the big one. We'll reveal how Ukrainian intelligence is actively dismantling the global supply chain of Russia's own high-end drone, the Kronstadt Orion.
This isn't just about cool tech.
No, not at all. It's about why, in modern coastal warfare, decentralized agility and superior intelligence are proving so much more effective than these big, centralized, high-cost platforms. It's the battle of the two Orions, and the results are, well, they're stunning.
To really understand their success, you have to appreciate where they started. So let's unpack the history of the Ukrainian unit, the 40th Coastal Defense Brigade. It's a story of incredibly rapid adaptation.
They didn't start out in this specialized coastal role, did they?
Not even close. It originated as the 150th Mechanized Brigade, which was announced back in mid-October 2023.
And that was part of that major strategic expansion, right? The Ukrainian ground forces were scaling up, forming 5 new mechanized brigades. That was a 5% expansion of their entire ground force?
Exactly. It was about getting more bodies and more armor to the front lines. Raw growth.
But the battlefield changes.
It always does. And the strategic environment demands you pivot. So in late December 2024, we saw the critical shift. The entire brigade was transferred to the 30th Marine Corps and officially redesignated as the 40th Coastal Defense Brigade.
That's way more than just a name change.
Oh, absolutely. It was a complete specialization for one of the most delicate and contested pieces of terrain on the map. The defense of the Tinto River line in Kherson Oblast.
That river line it's a nightmare to defend. It demands a very specific skill set, very specific equipment.
Precisely. The unit is now commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Vladislav Halkin, and their motto is courage and strength. But the key element for our deep dive today is built right into their structure. The Specialized Drone Battalion Orion.
BBPS Orion.
Right. And for you listening, BBPS just stands for Battalion of Bezpilotny Systemy, the Battalion of Unmanned Systems. This is that agile, intelligent unit we're talking about.
And you can see that specialization reflected perfectly in their equipment. They started with old Soviet-era stuff like T-64 BV tanks, BMPs.
Standard mechanized gear.
But their new mission meant a hardware update. By January 2025, they were getting Western armored amphibious vehicles, like the BVS-10.
And the BVS-10 is the perfect example here. It's an articulated, tracked vehicle. It's not designed for flat, open fields. It's made specifically for mud, for swamps, for river crossings.
So that transition from heavy tanks to these nimble amphibious vehicles it perfectly mirrors their new job on the dimer.
It does. And if the equipment shift reflects their new environment, the real game changer is what they put inside the drones, their whole operational philosophy.
Which brings us to part 2, AI, autonomy, and really the end of the safe haven.
The BBPS Orion unit operates under this new ethos to negate traditional Russian concealment. Russian doctrine relies so heavily on shelters, on forests, on defensive positions to protect their high-value assets.
But the Ukrainian thinking now is that no position is truly secure anymore.
And that's critical because the environment they're in is just brutal. The front line is blanketed in Russian electronic warfare. EW jammers are everywhere, this massive radio frequency umbrella.
So standard FPV drones, the ones that need a constant radio link to the pilot, they're losing the signal and falling out of the sky.
Constantly. EW is the biggest obstacle to a successful drone strike. It's designed to create a safe zone.
And this is where the Ukrainian ingenuity kicks in.
This is it. The Ukrainian Unmanned Systems Forces have deployed AI-augmented targeting systems, which gives their FPVs something we call terminal autonomy.
Wait, unpack that. Are we talking about true fire and forget? So a pilot picks a target, say, 3 kilometers away, the jammer hits the drone, and it just takes over and finishes the job on its own.
That is precisely what we're talking about. Think of it like a smartphone. But instead of GPS, it's using machine vision to remember exactly what you told it to hit, no matter how much radio static is in the air.
So the pilot just has to lock on.
The pilot selects a Russian tank, maybe a hidden bunker, locks the camera onto it, and the drone's onboard processor immediately takes control for that final critical run.
It's like an insurance policy against that whole EW umbrella. What happens once the signal is gone?
If that RF link is severed, the drone doesn't crash. It flies completely autonomously using its AI. It tracks movement, it adjusts its path, it uses really sophisticated machine vision to identify the target, the shape, the pattern, the heat signature.
Wow.
And it navigates right to that pre-selected impact point. I mean, a pilot from the 58th Motorized Brigade recently said a strike would have been absolutely no way possible without this AI guidance.
That just eliminates the biggest psychological defense the enemy has, the ability to hide. If you know that even jamming the drone won't save you, that it remembers where you are.
The safety of that concealed position just vanishes, and the precision is staggering. The AI isn't just trained to hit a tank, it's trained to adjust the impact point by 1 to 2 meters.
Why so precise?
To hit the most vulnerable spots, a specific weak point on the armor, a fuel tank, or the exact entrance to a dugout. This innovation means hiding behind a wall or under a tree is no longer effective once that drone has a terminal lock.
So that's the agile doctrine of the Ukrainian BBPS Orion. Now let's shift to what they're up against. The centralized, high-cost Russian platform, the Kronstadt Orion. This is the core of that clash of doctrines.
Right. The Russian platform is their attempt at technological parity. The Kronstadt Orion, also known as Inogadets, is Russia's premier mail platform, medium altitude, long endurance.
So for anyone listening who isn't deep into drone categories, mail capability, that's a massive leap up from small FPVs. What does that actually mean?
It means persistent, high-altitude surveillance and strike capability. This is a 1-ton aircraft with a 16-meter wingspan. It's about the size of a small private plane. It's designed to fly high and stay up there for a long time, up to 30 hours of endurance, with a service ceiling of 7,500 meters. And crucially, it has a payload capacity of up to 250 kilograms.
And with a 250-kilo payload, you can carry some serious guided munitions.
Exactly. We're talking KB-20 bombs, KK-50 missiles, and even their new S-8000 Banderol cruise missile. This is why Russian state media, when it was announced, loudly called it the Bayraktar killer.
They framed it as the definitive answer to Ukraine's early drone successes.
They did, but despite those impressive specs, the reality on the ground in Ukraine has been pretty disappointing for Russia.
The Orion was barely used in the initial invasion, right? It was sort of eclipsed, as sources put it, by swarms of Lancets. And ironically, the same kind of primitive FPV drones that Ukraine is now supercharging with AI.
It was just considered too high value, too vulnerable for the contested skies. We did see more use reported recently during the 2024 Kursk incursion, because that front line was newer, more fluid. It had fewer dense, integrated anti-aircraft systems compared to the established fronts. But its high cost, that remains its fatal flaw, its Achilles heel.
Which brings us to the economic vulnerability. I mean, we are talking about a platform that, with its ground control station, costs upwards of $5 million per unit.
$5 million. Every single loss is a massive financial blow, not just a tactical one.
And how many have they lost?
As of the latest data from the open-source intel site Oryx, in December 2025, 9 Russian Orion drones have been visually confirmed as lost in combat.
9! That's a lot of money. Tens of millions of dollars of strategic assets just gone.
And it's that critical vulnerability that Ukraine's intelligence apparatus is now exploiting masterfully.
Which is exactly what Ukraine's main Directorate of Intelligence, the HUR, targeted in that strategic operation back in November 2025. They didn't just target the drone itself, they went for its industrial heart.
That's right. The HUR published this incredibly detailed analysis, complete with a 3D model, of the Kronstadt Orion's entire production network. It wasn't just a report, it was a roadmap for dismantling the platform.
And the key finding was this massive industrial dependency. It really exposes Russia's lack of industrial sovereignty and high-tech military production.
It's a huge finding. The HUR identified 43 separate Russian companies involved in producing the Orion. But here's the massive loophole they found. A full third of those 43 companies are not yet under international sanctions,
A third of them are still able to operate on the global market.
which means that sanctions gap is allowing for the continued supply of critical foreign components, the irreplaceable parts.
We're talking about things like advanced components for electro-optical systems, right? The high-res cameras, the specialized chips for the ground stations.
And even the specific polymer composite materials needed for the airframe. Russia's dependency here isn't marginal, it's massive, and now it's completely exposed. This is why that HUR operation is so critical. It gives the West the evidence needed to finally synchronize sanctions and cut off that technology flow.
And the broader implications are pretty serious for global security, moving well beyond this conflict.
Yes, the DIU, the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, explicitly warned that if these companies are allowed to keep operating, these foreign technologies could be transferred to Russia's allies,
You mean Iran and North Korea?
particularly Iran and North Korea, which would expand the risk of their advanced military use on an international scale. It just underscores why this kind of sanctions enforcement is so vital.
So let's bring this all back to the operational impact of the Ukrainian BBPS Orion. Their successes really do validate their entire doctrine. They were pivotal in the defense of the Dnipro and Kherson Oblast in early 2025.
That was a major engagement. They were crucial in repulsing a large-scale Russian amphibious offensive across the river. Russian forces reportedly deployed up to 300 vessels trying to cross,
300.
and the 40th Brigade's drone units just continuously repulsed and destroyed them. Their commanders claimed they maintained the sky on our side.
That's the agility of the drone unit winning against a massed amphibious effort. And they use a highly integrated approach, right? It's not just drones flying solo.
Absolutely not. They pair that real-time aerial feed with their ground assets. For instance, in January 2025, they released footage of their BMP-1s armed with these specialized Spear combat modules, conducting demining and striking Russian positions on the left bank.
All guided by the live drone feeds.
All guided by the continuous high-fidelity feeds from the BBPS Orion unit. They are the eyes that link the ground forces directly to the target.
And beyond that defensive role, we've also seen high-value targeted strikes against the Russian Orion platform itself, conducted by the overarching Unmanned Systems Forces, the USF.
Yes, Commander Robert Bravdi, callsign Mayar, he leads that effort. And his units have scored some very significant victories. On September 13, 2025, the 414th Topat team achieved a rare aerial victory. They actually shot down a Russian Orion.
They called it a rare creature and a valuable stray.
Which tells you just how carefully Russia uses these assets and how difficult they are to intercept. But that was just the beginning.
Because that interception was followed by a much more strategic, systemic blow. On the night of November 12-13, 2025, USF units Magyar's Birds executed a deep strike into occupied Crimea.
They hit the Kirovsky airfield. Intelligence had confirmed it was a primary storage and maintenance hub for the Russian Orion UAVs. They used long-range Ludy drones and Flamingo missiles.
So they didn't just hit one drone on the tarmac.
No, they hit the high-value ground support structure. The control stations, the maintenance facilities, the spare parts. It was a logical, strategic follow-up designed to cripple the entire operational readiness of the Russian platform in that region.
These successes are really emblematic of that broader doctrinal shift that the formalization of the USF represents. I mean, drones have gone from being a tactical accessory to
the decisive combat arm. It's institutionalizing drone warfare at the same level as the Army or the Navy. It confirms the core finding of our deep dive.
Which is?
That technological agility, paired with decentralized control and intelligence, is consistently proving superior to these centralized, high-cost Russian systems, whose complexity makes their production fragile and reliant on these global supply chains.
So to summarize our findings, Ukraine's BBPS Orion embodies a new form of warfare. It's defined by decentralized organization and AI-augmented agility.
And this nimble, adaptable approach is actively defeating Russia's centralized, technology-dependent Orion program.
A program whose reliance on foreign supply chains makes it uniquely vulnerable to these targeted intelligence operations.
And this leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. This conflict has shown that the biggest strategic vulnerability in 21st century warfare, it might no longer be a lack of sophisticated equipment. It might be a lack of industrial sovereignty and adaptability. As AI creates true terminal autonomy and basically eliminates the digital fog of war, how long can any nation, especially those outside the core Western tech ecosystem, really rely on industrial models that depend on global components to sustain a protracted war of attrition.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. We'll catch you next time. Hola! And don't forget, subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.